and welcome to our weekly water cooler conversation. I am so excited for this week. This is a giant-sized weekly water cooler conversation day. It is a victory for comic book fans. I'm going to be going into full spoilers. Snyder Cut is 4 hours, and it is a force of nature itself. We were also excited for this that it actually crashed Instagram, because we have been gearing up for this very week from the beginning, but this might be the biggest week for all comic books. Let's talk about Snyder Cut. The Snyder Cut is a freak of nature in that it exists. And that I say with the highest possible praise. This is something that shouldn't exist. This is something that was disassembled. This is something that was re-released with completely different footage. This is something that is 4 hours long. The chain of events that had to happen in order for the Snyder Cut to exist are astronomical. HBO Max had to come around exactly when it did. They needed a flagship exactly when they did. The pandemic encouraged something like 4-hour binge viewing to that level. The fandom had to be the most feverish a fandom has ever been. They raised hundreds of thousands, $500,000 for suicide prevention while also raising awareness for the Snyder Cut. Now, there are a contingent of Justice League Snyder Cut fans that are problematic, but the group as a whole is just passion, and that can go either direction. That can go positive or negative. In the positive, the things they've done for suicide awareness cannot be overstated. Just truly incredible work, and they got this thing made, which doesn't make sense from a studio standpoint. All of the ingredients of $70 million in post, 4-hour runtime, all of those things, and that's the feverish Snyder Cut fandom. So we're going to just talk about the positive about the fandom, because I know a lot of people, I've even gotten attacked for enjoying the Snyder Cut, and that doesn't make any sense, because I've said from the beginning, I'm going to judge it objectively. I'm going to be completely freaking honest. I gave trigger warnings in my last Coy Cubed about potentially talking negatively about a movie that I know a lot of people are going to love, because I am a big Man of Steel fan, and I am a big fan of the characters that Zack Snyder is playing with, but I didn't feel that either Batman vs. Superman nor Justice League really captured the characters. This completely turned me 180 on that. It actually retroactively made me enjoy BVS a little bit more. I'm still not the biggest BVS fan. I'm not going to pretend to be. I'm not going to suddenly be a fair weather fan. I'm not the guy that when the team goes to the Super Bowl suddenly decides to be part of the winning team. I'm not going to do that. I was not as big of a fan of BVS or Justice League. I was a Man of Steel fan, and I am a diehard Snyder Cut fan now that I've seen the 4 hours. This was an A- for me. This was an incredible experience that was mythic, that was full of scope and wonder and power. It was so many characters that I know and love getting their actual time to shine. It was characters in a team movie that were juggling 100 things, that had an incredible villain, that were able to do all of that while making a very different tone superhero movie than we've ever seen before. This has more in common with Lord of the Rings than it does with Batman Forever. This is more in common with sword and sandal picks than it does with Marvel movies. And that is how we get to keep making both. The way superhero movies last forever is we don't let them be the same. The way superhero movies keep going and we have 4 to 5 of them a year plus all these TV shows is they don't look like each other. This is like nothing else. This is biblical. This is mythic. This is gigantic. Every character got their time. Every character had a wonderful arc. The villain wasn't one note. I really loved the pacing. I've seen a lot of guff about people with the slow-mo. I loved it. I loved that everything felt so big. I loved the new score. I loved that it just felt enormous. The framing bothered a lot of people, but if you actually know how film is filmed, it's the biggest possible version of the screen, because this is what film captures, 4:3. 16:9 is this same square, but cut down this way to fit the wide screen. So you're actually losing the top and the bottom of the frame to fit the cinematic scope. So what Zack Snyder did was he kept the film and was planning to play it in IMAX, and then when you got it on your TV, you got this. That's the bars on the side. And I completely agree with his decision, because I loved when characters would arrive and you just have so much just room and power, and everything felt so larger than life, because it's not a format that usually exists. it is everything to the movie that it just feels enormous. And that's thanks to the score, and I think the frame really helps the whole scope of the film. So those are my general thoughts. Those are about as spoiler-free as I can go. If you haven't seen it beyond this point, I'm going to get into some light spoilers. I highly recommend it. I really think it was a great love letter to the mythic side of DC Comics. I think it was Zack Snyder using all of his strengths, everything he learned from Watchmen, everything he learned from Man of Steel, everything that he does really, really well was at play in this movie. It's probably my favorite Zack Snyder film since Watchmen, and it's up there with the overall caliber I expect from comic book movies in general. DC's had a rocky road with Warner Brothers and their releases and their universes and their share. I really liked what they did here and how they landed it, so I was very impressed overall. Cyborg finally got a story. Cyborg got an origin. Cyborg got to tell his story. Cyborg had a complete arc, and you were emotionally invested in Cyborg. His relationship with his father mattered. His powers were interesting. He looked cool overall. I really appreciated that it was a Cyborg movie, because that was essential for the mother boxes being interesting by the third act. Our eye line into this world, and they really made us care about him quickly, and they really humanized something that was literally a cyborg so quickly and so efficiently, and I was all about the Cyborg arc. Flash got his powers. Flash felt like Flash. I'm not as big on Ezra Miller's portrayal of the character as I am, say, Grant Gustin's. It's this strange mix of Barry Allen and Wally West that I feel is a little off for my take, but that's just me. I don't know the character. But it worked. There were some moments that I was a little off, but I really enjoyed it overall. His power display was so much fun to invest in, and by the third act, when he literally caused a flashpoint, he reversed time, we started seeing the scope of what the Flashpoint movie is going to be, which I think we're actually finally getting. Andy Muschietti is directing a Flash movie, and Andy Muschietti is now coming off of people seeing this version of the Flash, because this movie is going to be great, and I think we're going to enjoy Flash now that we have this level of power in him. The scene with Kiersey Clemons is the thing I was waiting most for in this movie. A lot of people were looking for the black suit. A lot of people were excited for a new Steppenwolf. I was excited for Kiersey Clemons as Iris West. I honestly wish there was more. We had one scene, but it was a great scene. The cinematography was beautiful. The passion, the love at first sight moment, the adorability, you felt that between the two of them with one scene, and it was just a beautiful sequence. I really enjoyed it. I'm a big fan of Kiersey, and I'm a big fan of Iris West, so I was so excited to see that come to play. Big fan of all the Flash stuff. The stuff with his father is probably my favorite for the emotional aspect of the character. I really liked that we had multiple Billy Crudup scenes. I really liked that the whole thing let us breathe with the characters, and that's what I think I liked about the pacing the most is everyone not only got their arc, but everyone got to breathe. Everyone got to experience these moments. It didn't rush. It ironically, now that we're talking about Flash, it never rushed. It absorb the moments, and that's why I like the slow-mo. That's why I like the melodrama of this, because if you're telling a story about gods and things that are mythic, Marvel does a really good job with your friend next door that could be a hero, the underdog. This version of DC, and there are variables and there are many interpretations, is what if gods walked amongst us? I felt that more in the Snyder Cut than I have in any other movie talking about superheroes. Aquaman got an entire sequence where people are singing, literally singing his praises. They're announcing him. They're reveling in his glory. The gods walk amongst us. Aquaman, Flash, Superman, Wonder Woman, especially Wonder Woman, a literal Greek god, are amongst us. And this movie captured, I think, the closest to what that would feel like. And I like that it was slow in its absorbing of how insane that would feel. So I really liked the pacing and the tone. Aquaman, that song sequence, was probably my favorite sequence of his in cinema to date. He definitely had his fun with his "my man" and that whole character flavor that Jason Momoa brings to Aquaman. We got a little bit more of that. I tweeted, actually, I was tweeting my whole experience of this movie, but one of my favorite sequences in a comic book movie, and probably my tied for first, maybe first and second, favorite DC sequence is in this film. No Man's Land is, I think, my favorite DC sequence of all time. And I think number two, right close to that, is the sequence where they get out of the elevator into the Batcave and all greet Alfred in the way that feels true to their cinematic version of their characters. Everyone is so in their character that it feels like the Avengers Assemble moment, but with this character set. We get our assembly of the Justice League. We get the whole league together. And I know people get mad when I talk about the other company mixed in with this company, but these are comic book movies. These are the moments that we want when you read comic books. Avengers just came out first, so that's the point of context. This was the Justice League I wanted to see when I read Justice League. And I got to see Aquaman have a moment with this Alfred. I got to see Flash lose his mind at the Batcave. I got to see Wonder Woman have that really maternal but passion for Alfred taking care of Bruce. I got to see Bruce's father-son relationship. All of that in one sequence was everything. Aquaman, I think, really elevated in this film, and that moment reminded me of the Aquaman exchange between the two of them, because I feel like Aquaman, Cyborg got the screen time he deserved, but I feel like the little moments with Aquaman really helped me understand his character more, and I really just love Jason Momoa's portrayal in this iteration. Wonder Woman, the Amazon sequence, cannot be topped. That Amazon sequence is like nothing else. I can't believe they cut it. I can't believe how much was gone from that Amazon sequence. The Amazonians and Wonder Woman actually were in this film. This was so much that I loved about the first Wonder Woman movie, but in a team movie. They really understood who Wonder Woman was. They really understood who the Amazonians were. I love how strong and capable and intelligent and just power. The power of the Amazonians was so there. When they were fighting Steppenwolf, you just felt every bit of the power of that entire community and their bond together and their synchronized, like the chanting and those moments was just so everything. The Amazonian sequence was almost like an emotional experience for me. It's actually what made me pause the movie, get my day done, and then finish it at night, because I was like, this is too much for me to be watching during the day. I want to watch this with the blinds closed. I want to watch this complete darkness. I want to be immersed, because that Amazon sequence was everything you think when you read a Wonder Woman comic. It was everything you think when you saw that first movie, and it was just bigger and bigger and bigger. I love that briefly we got Robin Wright back in that sequence later in the flashback, but all of Connie's stuff is just so good. I can't speak any higher of that sequence. The Steppenwolf versus the Amazons was everything I love about the comic book. So yeah, that made me so happy. And Wonder Woman, I mean, what do you have to say about Gal? She is Wonder Woman. It's insane. Her standing on the goddess of justice, Themis, and like that's her great aunt, effectively, Themis, the Greek god of justice. That amazing introduction. Her taking out the stopping the heist, the bullet sequence, and then her like helping the little girl up, all of that was just so Wonder Woman. I loved it. Could not have loved it more. Batman. I mean, Batfleck is... Christian Bale has had 3 movies of Batman. I know Christian Bale's Batman. Instinctively, even though I don't like Batman having guns, Ben Affleck's Batman is probably my favorite Batman, like fighting and detecting and like being that Batman. So I'm really torn between Bale and Ben Affleck. Batfleck, visually, favorite suit, fighting style, feels the most like Batman. All the Batman sequences, but we haven't gotten a Batman movie. So it's really hard because it's just screen time. It's hard to judge between the two. But every sequence of Batfleck here, he felt like Bruce. He felt like the father of the Justice League. He felt like he was trying to right a wrong. It was so right. And everything with Batman was just, I was always so excited. The costume is so good. The couple extra fight sequences we got made me so happy. I really love Batman in this, and I'm a big Batman fan. Today's character, sneaky behind me, is probably my favorite comic book villain. Batman was everything. What else is there to say about Batman except that it was like Frank Miller come to life, but a little more linear? There was more compassion in his brooding. There was more understanding in his rage. I love this portrayal. Ben Affleck absolutely crushed. This Batman is everything I wanted. Superman. We got Superman in the third act. We built to Superman. We earned the return of Superman. One of the problems I had with the first Justice League, the 2017 cut, was it didn't feel earned when Superman came back. Like, the death and return of Superman was like, bruh, he just died. Who cares? This, because of the runtime, because of the pacing, because of everything building up to it, it felt like a moment when we got Superman back. It mattered when we got Superman back. We felt the absence of Superman. I would have loved to have seen the whole trilogy of this. I would have loved all of those things building up to. But when Superman is fighting the entire Justice League, it matters now. When Superman comes back, you feel the world breathe a breath of fresh air and then lose that breath. They get punched in the gut because we don't know to trust him or not. And then when he returns again in the black suit and he's Clark, and the relationship with Clark and Martha and Clark and Lois, all of that, so much better executed here. So much more real, so much more true to the comics. The black suit looks great. The sequence where he's walking through the ship and all the suits come out, and one of them is a female Kryptonian warrior suit, because frickin' Kara is in this. Supergirl is in this mythology. In Man of Steel, there's an open Kryptonian egg nest thing, and then in this one, there's a female Kryptonian warrior suit. She's here, somewhere. Somewhere in the Snyderverse is Supergirl, which makes me happy. But Superman is Superman in this. I've always said that the last 2 minutes of Justice League, the Joss Whedon cut, were my favorite 2 minutes because it was the race, and it felt like Superman was finally Superman. We got this long form in this. We earned it, and I do feel like by the end, like, when he blows away the axe of Steppenwolf, all those moments we were about to get a Superman. Like, Man of Steel 2 would have been Superman in that Boy Scout honorary. One of my favorite sequences was when he was using the heat vision on the Justice League, how angry and how malicious and how terrifying and how exactly like Bruce worried that would be if that felt. And then using the heat vision against villains, it felt like what he had to do. And it wasn't a monster doing it. It was a guy having to save the world. And that was just acting. That was just Henry Cavill and beautiful framing. And I was just so impressed with what Henry Cavill did here. It is in truly top form acting, and I was just so impressed with his work. So I loved me some Superman in this take. All right, I gotta both cover this and more properties. I'm gonna try to get through this a little quicker. The bad guys: Steppenwolf and Darkseid. Steppenwolf was so much better in this take. I liked his look. It's a little, Transformers-y, but they made it work. The breathing and the adjusting of the plates and the armor feeling sentient and then the armor fading away and then covering back up again, all of those things really added to the characterization. You're also invested in him wanting to get back to Apocalypse, the planet he's from. You're invested in his being put out and ostracized. You're invested in the character. He's an actually decent villain in this. I had no idea what Steppenwolf wanted before. I knew he served Darkseid, but it didn't really matter. The only gripe I have is he said for Darkseid when Darkseid is as important to Darkseid as Darkseid. They should have said Darkseid is, because the idea is that Darkseid is everything. Darkseid is ominous. Darkseid is all present. Darkseid is what I was missing. That my only note about the villainy is I didn't feel that Darkseid was this death incarnate ominous thing. He felt a little too similar to a Steppenwolf level. Like, I know he's more powerful in the movie, but I'm gonna have negatives. My only real negative is, like, I wanted Darkseid is to feel like your heart beating in your chest, that thrum, that beating drum of foreboding, and I didn't get that. But I did enjoy Darkseid. It was great to hear Darkseid. It was great to see Darkseid. It was great to experiencing the screen time we had with him. I'm sure by Justice League 2 and 3, Darkseid would have felt like Darkseid is, and it might have been a line they were building up to. It might have been something they were building for Darkseid is. But Steppenwolf really worked for me here. Darkseid, I really got to experience all of that. Yeah, I enjoyed the villains. I was way more invested in there, and I'm hoping... Oh, that's a first. Welcome back. Let me adjust. Dramatic. Did it zoom in a little bit? Oh, it did. Okay. Fixed. I do feel like with the new gods, which Ava DuVernay and Tom King are working on, we will get Darkseid is, we will get Mr. Miracle, we will get more Granny Goodness, we will get more of that tone. So I don't think this is the end of how Darkseid is going to work. This is just the beginning, and I really liked the introduction. I think we're going to be in a really good spot. And Darkseid is, I want that beating drum of foreboding, and I think it's coming. Martian Manhunter worked. He wasn't really a presence that I expected. I know that, you have to work with the screen time, and there's certainly a lot of screen time. And, we had a couple cool scenes to set him up. I thought it was really strange that Unite the Seven was such a thing for the marketing campaign for Justice League, and then there's 6 members. I assumed, again, fan expectation, the 7th was Martian Manhunter, and he'd be a bigger part. I thought he'd be involved more. So that was just my own assumption. I thought we'd get a little bit more Martian Manhunter in the storyline, but I do feel like what we got was an intriguing setup for future Martian Manhunter stuff. I am hoping, to be honest, we see more of this. I don't know how it's doing. I'm sure it's doing very well on HBO. I don't know how you profit enough off of a streaming service to make up a $70 million cost, much less greenlight another film when the universe has gone other directions. But if there is more Snyder ever, I would love to see more Martian Manhunter. I would love to learn more about what Martian Manhunter was going to do in the proposed original Justice League trilogy. Maybe one day I'll do another video and just talk about what the Justice League trilogy was going to be, and we'll dive into that, but that's its own hour. But I would love to have seen what that might have been. I've talked about the Amazonians. I literally wrote down Amazonians twice because the Amazon sequence blew me away. Lois had so much more to do here. I really enjoyed Lois. I love their love. I love that she felt like a reporter, even though she didn't get through a lot of reporting because she was removed, but like the way Amy Adams brings a gravitas to Lois is so great. And the relationship with her and Martha, even though that was Martian Manhunter in that sequence, that all of that just builds the character and it builds to everyone else. She's essential as a human in this world of gods. Really enjoyed what Lois Lane brought with even limited screen time, and all the scenes of her love with Clark were so powerful and just wonderful. And there's a Zack Snyder cameo actually in that coffee shop scene. If you watch closely, when Lois leaves the coffee shop, if you look through the glass, Zack's sitting in the coffee shop. Let's see, new Kiersey Clemens, absolutely adored, really enjoyed. Willem Dafoe, I have been looking forward to for so very long. Willem Dafoe as Vulko was awesome. He looks so cool with that hair and his just Dafoe-ness. I don't even know if there's a better verb or adjective than Dafoe-ness. He's got a Dafoe-ness that is hard to replicate. He's one of those actors that there's no one like him, and he just has so much going on in his eyes. And he can say the weirdest dialogue, and you're just so there. Loved the Dafoe stuff. We had the black suit, which lived up to all expectations. The Jesus biblical imagery really worked. I loved more powerful Superman when the rocks are swirling around his hand when he's about to take flight, and all of that in that black suit, and you just felt... You were just so invested. I was just so impressed. The black suit really worked for me. It looked cool. The scene where the gate opens up and the cape's fluttering behind him was fucking Superman. The scene where Superman is in the cyborg projection felt more like Superman than I've seen in a lot of Superman. There were so many moments that just felt like Clark Kent, that just felt like Superman, that felt like this character that I've wanted to see done right for so long. Loved the black suit. Love Superman. Very happy boy. Desaad. We didn't get a lot of Desaad. Great voice acting. Very ominous. Very aware that he was, capable of overpowering Steppenwolf, while Steppenwolf was also our big bad. Felt like he was a great lackey to Darkseid. Again, we were just beginning this journey, so we saw what we saw, but I enjoyed Desaad. Granny Goodness didn't speak. But I was good to see Granny Goodness even in a silent cameo. It was good to see Granny Goodness even in just the world of Apocalypse, in the world of what Darkseid is going to build to, and I really enjoyed that sequence. We got our first Green Lanterns, plural. We had a Green Lantern in the flashback sequence, which was awesome to see an primate ape Green Lantern doing his thing. We also got Kilowog, I believe it was Kilowog, in the future death sequence, the nightmare sequence, when we saw all the soldiers falling. I really enjoyed Kilowog, and I really enjoy that character, so it was cool to see both a living Green Lantern and a dead classic Green Lantern. The Greek gods was really cool to see Hercules alongside Ares. Still not a big fan of that Ares choice, how they handled Ares and Wonder Woman. The third act of Wonder Woman is my biggest problem with Wonder Woman, but it is the thing there. You can kind of make the world better by strengthening the characters through other films, so see him again, even that little bit helps. You're like, yeah, that is a part of the universe. So seeing the Greek gods, seeing Hercules, seeing Ares, all that was badass. Seeing the man, Amazon, Atlantean, God, war was so big and insane. I can't believe how much they cut of this movie. I can't believe that this all existed and we almost never saw any of it. I can't believe how good this was and it almost never got in our brains. We almost missed out on this experience. I had 4 hours of geek-gasm. I just experienced comics for 4 fucking hours, and we almost didn't get it. We almost didn't get that. And I just want to thank Warner Brothers for making a risky call. I want to thank Zack Snyder for not letting this thing die, where it lived on a computer forever and then the fans made it come back. I want to thank Deborah Snyder, who is the producer of this, who put so much of her life aside to get this back alongside her husband, who she works with constantly. She is a genius producer. I want to thank Deborah and Zack Snyder for giving this gift to me as a fan and to you guys as fans, because it is an unlikely thing to exist. There is nothing else quite like it. I've met Zack and Deborah. I've talked with Zack and Deborah at length. They're fantastic human beings, and they deserve all of the love that they're about to get. I am a big fan of them as people, big fan of them as creators, big fan of them as producers. I, too, would like to see more of the Snyderverse. I would not have said that before the Snyder Cut. I wanted to see Zack do stuff that was outside of comic books so he could actually have the creative freedom to make it without fans getting mad at him for making his bold choices. Now I want more Snyderverse, and that's new. So I just want to own that in general, and I think it's really important to acknowledge that when we look at this movie, that Zack Snyder and Deborah Snyder, this is a lot of their life, and they went through the worst thing a parent can go through while dealing with this world and came back to it. So I'm so impressed with them. A lot of love for them. Robin Wright, it was cool to see her again. Unite the Seven, ? My Martian Manhunter thing. The Snyder's vision is, I think, really captured here. I think this is what Zack set out to make, and I think they really accomplished it. I think they really landed what Zack set out to make. That being said, I've given 20 minutes of positive with 2 little tiny negatives. I am going to say something, and it's okay if you disagree with me, and it's okay if you enjoyed it. And I'm not saying you're wrong, and I'm not saying I'm wrong. I'm saying my experience was this. Don't come mad at me. I hated the nightmare sequence. I did not understand why it was necessary. I do not like that take of the Joker, it means so much to me. I thought it undermined a lot of the cool Batman we just experienced. I didn't mind the post-wake-up sequence, even though the dream wake-up felt very cheesy. The movie was a solid A- for me, and honestly, that nightmare sequence dropped it down to an A-. It was teetering a little higher, and it was a lot of the things I was worried about the movie being. And this is my take, and I can only caveat and asterisk so much, but I just don't understand why it felt so off. It felt like the dialogue didn't work. It felt like the characterizations weren't there. The acting was not the same caliber. I don't know what Amber Heard's doing a lot of the time. But even like Ben Affleck, who had just slayed for 4 hours as Batman, I didn't really love. Like, that was a different thing. And I personally have never disliked a take on a character I've loved more than Jared Leto's Joker in this. It just didn't work for me. And that's me. That's my taste, and that's my experience. Not my cup of tea, and that's okay. And I'm not going to dwell on the negative. I loved 95% of this experience. Loved Ryan Choi. Loved that we got Adam set up. A-T-O-M, not A-D-A-M. Ryan Choi is Adam. Star Labs got a great setup. These are some of my Easter eggs I noticed. Mother Box. I looked up 1982 because I assumed that was a thing. June, which is the 6th month, 1982, is when Tales of the New Teen Titans #1 dropped, and that's got the Mother Box in there. So there is a tie-in with that object, and I thought there would be, and I enjoyed that little Easter egg. Gardner Fox is the writer Gardner Fox, DC Comics writer Gardner Fox. That was written on the side of the bus. I mean, the 18-wheeler was way too big of a writing to really not be important, so Gardner Fox is actually a writer who wrote on Flash and a bunch of other Silver Age stuff, so check that out. Gardner Fox was very intentional. Iron Heights Penitentiary makes an appearance. That's like the Flash's Arkham. Where his dad is staying is like the Arkham for the Flash universe, so it was cool to see Iron Heights after, reading that in the comics a lot. They had Arkham Asylum established in 1974, which I thought was clever because that's the year the actual comic book introduced Arkham, so Arkham was established in 1974. Enjoyed that. Crispus Allen was the cop that, in the sequence where we first see Commissioner Gordon, this new scene with Commissioner Gordon where he's talking to the other cop is Crispus Allen. That cop in the comic book goes on to play Spectre. Spectre is a very weird and very important character, but represents like death in its own way, so that character goes on to be something important. If you thought that character might be a thing, that character is a thing. And finally, my favorite cameo of all, Jimmy Olsen is the actor who is the cop that Cyborg saves, and that Jimmy Olsen is the Jimmy Olsen of the Christopher Reeve Superman. So OOOG Jimmy Olsen is back in this movie for a cop role cameo. I thought that was very, very lovely. So I enjoyed so much of this, and I really am glad it exists. I will own that I didn't think the Snyder Cut could ever live up to fan expectations. I also didn't think I would personally enjoy it after my BVS experience. I was completely wrong. This is twice in 3 weeks I've been completely wrong and been overjoyed by it. I love that WandaVision wasn't mutants, and it wasn't Mephisto, and it wasn't giant world ending. It was about heart and character, and I love that the Snyder Cut was exactly what I wanted it to be. This felt like Zack Snyder's version of the Justice League mixed with my version of the Justice League, feeling like an actual experience. Couldn't be happier. I'm Team Snyderverse. I want more. I want in, and I want to thank Zach and Deborah for everything they've done for comic book culture, and I want to thank all those actors for just being those characters, because holy shit, I was fucking in. All right, that is going to be it for Snyder Cut. We're going to